to Blue Spruce Hollow. Before I started planting, I spent a lot of time trying to imagine what this tucked away little corner beside my shed could actually become. I had a few things to keep in mind. I had several plants from my grandparents' garden that I wanted to find homes for, and this corner also doesn't receive a lot of direct sunlight. It does get a little bit of morning sun, but that's about it. So I played around with a few different ideas and came up with some different inspiration images to help me visualize the space. Although the rest of Blue Spruce Hollow is slowly leaning more towards a French country / Mediterranean vibe, I've had to change my thinking a little bit when it comes to the shady sections of the garden. Instead of fighting the conditions, I decided to work with them. I started by planting an ostrich fern at the back of this bed. As it grows, it should have plenty of height and even the texture that'll help create that lush feeling I'm hoping for in this corner. Next, I'm planting a Lenten rose or hellebore. Now this one is from the Wedding Party collection and it is the True Love variety. I'm not going to get too far into this today, but I think one thing that's very important when planning a garden and where you're going to put different flowers is considering the different bloom times and different seasonal interests. So what's growing at what time, what are the colors that go together, having them nearby, just all of that little bit of planning and making sure there's always something in bloom, something that's going to catch your eye. To me, it's just a puzzle that I love trying to figure out and put together, and it's never going to be perfect. But that's one of the fun things about a garden. You got to change it up, and it's fine. So back to the hellebores. The hellebores are some of the earliest flowers to bloom in a garden. So depending on the spring conditions, they could actually begin flowering as soon as the snow thaws and the garden starts waking up. So because of that, I've been tucking them into the shady corners because they need shade. But also where the snow tends to melt the earliest. That way we can see their beautiful blooms. So my hope is that we'll be able to enjoy them by doing it this way as long as possible. Next, I'm planting a small drift of some pinky toned astilbes. Now I can't tell you the actual variety because these are some that came from my grandparents' garden and I just don't have the tags anymore. But I can tell by looking at them, the leaves vary slightly. So I think there's actually a couple different varieties here. Now, astilbes are beautiful, and I actually think that they're going to go very well with the kind of south of France vibe that I'm going for in the garden because they have the most beautiful, soft, feathery blooms. Some of them are more feathery, whereas some are more like delicate little flowers. Now, astilbes usually flower around July, so I'm hoping by planting them together here in a drift, like this little grouping, it's going to create a little cloud of color in this corner. Now you'll probably notice that I'm amending the soil as I plant, so I thought I'd explain a little bit about what I'm doing. Now, I don't know if this is the absolute perfect method or combination of products, but after doing a little bit of research, this is the approach I decided to try in my heavy clay soil. So I kind of start off by digging my planting hole. And as I've mentioned countless times already, the soil here is very heavy clay, so it's super tough when digging. So I'm digging this hole actually wider than the root ball itself so that the plant is going to have nicer soil around it after. I then mixed in some of the original soil. So I take the clay soil, just some of it, not all of it, that I've dug out, and I mix it with 3-in-1 garden mix and a little bit of a Pro Mix HP. Now I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but I think it's mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae. So this mycorrhizae is intended to support root development. So I wanted to amend the mix around the root zone. So again, I'm mixing the garden mix, the mycorrhizae, and the clay soil, mixing it all together, and that's what I'm going to fill the hole with. I'm not putting all the clay soil back by itself. I'm using a mixture of different soils to help with root development, and that it also has some feed for later. Something I'm also doing is I take a handful of bone meal and I throw that at the bottom of the hole before I put the plant in. And I also just kind of mix it in with my cultivator a little bit. So the bone meal is also very good for helping to develop root growth. So my hope is that all this will help these plants establish strong root systems as they settle into their new homes. Now, something else you'll probably notice, I'm raking as I go, and that's because all this excess clay soil is left on top, but I have a steep kind of drop off behind my shed. So I'm just kind of raking it to the back and I'm dumping it behind my shed so that I can build up some soil back there. Not that it's really important, I don't really care because you can't see it, but I'm just putting it down back there to build that area up. Now finally, I'm planting my Endless Summer hydrangea right at the front corner of the shed. Endless Summer is a big leaf hydrangea, meaning it grows on both old and new wood from max blooms. So it'll get, in this area, it's going to get more morning sun and afternoon shade, which will be perfect for this plant. Now the color of this hydrangea will change with the pH of the soil. If it's more acidic, it will be blue. If it's more of like a neutral, it's going to be purple. And if it's more alkaline, it'll be pink. So that's because it's a big leaf hydrangea. When I purchased it, it was pink. But I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to look like now that it's back here. I did add a lot of coffee beans to it over the span of the year because I moved it from the front yard. And when it was in the front yard, I wanted it to be blue. So yeah, I did add coffee beans. I'm not sure if that's going to actually change the color. I've read online that it could help, so I did try it. But there are definitely fertilizers you can buy to change them. And I don't know what color I want it to be. I'm kind of curious what it'll be just naturally in this area. So I think I'm not going to add any more coffee beans. I'm just going to let it go natural, see what happens, and then go from there if I want to change the color later. Because I am doing more of a pastel color palette, so I'm not sure exactly what I want yet. But it's something to think about. So my hope is, as it matures, it's going to fill out this corner and eventually soften the edge of the pathway I'm going to lay down around over here, which is going to lead from the deck toward the diamond parterre. Next, I have this enormous hosta that my neighbor gave me. Again, I don't know the variety, because it was a gift, but it's incredibly healthy and absolutely ginormous. I have a feeling I might eventually move this one. I originally imagined more silvery tone foliage in this area, and it's turning to look very green between the fern, the hellebore, and these stilbes. So it's looking very green over here. I think I'm going to move this eventually, but for now, because gardens are constantly evolving, I think this is a good home for it. And now with that, everything is finally planted, and all that's left to do is give all of the plants here a really good drink and make sure that those root balls are thoroughly hydrated. Thank you for joining me here today as I planted this little shade corner beside the shed. We'll see how it grows.